Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome to the Shir. Today's Daf is NIDAH Daf Lamed Tes. We'll be starting from the Mishnah Daf Lamed Ches on Beis on the bottom. Zok the Mishnah. Kol achadasar yom b'cheskas tahara. For 11 days, an Isha is presumed to be tahar. Now, the monthly cycle of an Isha consists of two parts. There are the Yimei NIDAH, and following the Yimei NIDAH, there are 11 Yimei Ziva. These terms, Yimei NIDAH, Yimei Ziva, refer to the potential properties of these days. If an Isha will see Dam during the Yimei NIDAH, she will be considered a NIDAH. If she sees the Dam Yimei Zivasa, she will be considered a Zava. Now, the usual occurrence is to see Dam only Yimei Nidasa. However, a Dam B'Yimei Zivasa is considered an unusual occurrence. Therefore, the Mishnah tells us that during the 11 days of Yimei Ziva, which are following the 7 days of Yimei Nidasa, because it is unusual for an Isha to see Dam in those days, she's presumed to be Tahar, she's B'cheskas Tahara. Now, what is the nafkamina? What are the halachic ramifications of the Cheskas Tahara? That will be discussed later on in the Gemara. Continues the Mishnah. Yashva v'loy v'lebatka. The Isha sat and did not perform a bedika. Evidently, she is required to be baidik herself. Now, which Isha are we speaking about? Are we speaking about the Zava that we just mentioned earlier? We just said that she's b'cheskas tahara, and why would she need a bedika? So the Gemara will address this apparent contradiction. It says the Mishnah, Yashva lebatka, shagaga nensa hezida v'lebatka. For whatever reason, she didn't do a bedika, whether it was inadvertent, unavoidable, or even purposely. V'loi batka tahira, meaning the din of bedika is only alechatchila, is only preferred. However, if she did not do a bedika b'di'evet, she is nevertheless tahir. There is one exception to that. Higia shas vesta v'loi batka. If the day of her fixed period, the shas vesta arrives, then we presume that she did see dam, even though she didn't notice the dam. We assume it came and left unnoticed. So then, if she didn't do a bedika on that day, harezu tmeya. Rabbi Meir Imer. There is one exception to that. If the Isha was hiding out in a hiding place for fear of Goyim and so forth, and the time of her vest, of her fixed period, has arrived and she did not perform a bedika, nevertheless she remains tahir. Although an ordinary Isha that did not perform a bedika b'shas vesta, we presume to be tamei, is presumed to have seen the dam and had the dam and not noticed it. However, in the case of an Isha who is hiding and escaping from Goyim, the terror that's involved, that affects the dam and suspends the flow of the dam. The terror misalekes es adamim. It removes the chashash of damim. Continues the Mishnah. Avol yimei hazav v'hazav v'shemer yom k'neged yom. However, although we stated earlier that the Isha during the 11 days of Yimei Ziva is considered b'cheskas tahara, as opposed to ordinary Isha, which needs to do bedikas. Continues the Mishnah that Azav and Azava, Shemer Yom K'neged Yom, these are individuals that had already seen that had already had a flow of dam and had already, in the midst of their tumah. They are considered to be tamei until proven otherwise. They are considered to be b'cheskas tumah. So, in effect, to summarize the Mishnah, we have 4 parts of the Mishnah. The opening statement, during the 11 days of Yimei Ziva, Isha's b'cheskas tahara. Continues the Mishnah. An Isha, which Isha are we speaking about, we'll see in a moment. Whatever Isha it is, she needs to do a bedika. Without a bedika, she's still tahar. The third part of the Mishnah goes on to say that b'shas vesta, she is presumed to be tamei if she did not perform a bedika. However, there's one exception to that, which is Rameya's case of a woman who is in hiding. And the last and final halacha in the Mishnah refers to a zava or shemer yom k'neged yom, which are considered to be b'cheskas tumah unless they have performed a bedika, which will prove that they are free of any tumah. Continues the Gemara. L'mai hilchasa. What is the nafkamina? What is the halachic ramifications of the cheskas tahara, which is mentioned in the opening statement of the Mishnah? Amar Rav Yehuda. We have 4 mahalchim in the Gemara, 4 explanations in the Gemara to the words of the Mishnah. The first one is Rabbi Yehuda, that the Mishnah is teaching us that this woman does not need to make a bedika because she is already b'cheskas tahara, she is presumed to be tahar, and no bedika is required. Frek the Gemara, V'hamig the Tani Seifa, since we see in the continuing words of the Mishnah, Yashva v'lei batka, the Mishnah refers to an Isha who was required to make a bedika. However, she did not do a bedika b'diavad. It is fine, she still remains tahar. Mechlal, it would seem to be l'chatchila by bedika, that preferably she is required yet to make a bedika. So how does that work with the opening statement of the Mishnah, which states that a Isha be mezivasa is b'cheskas tahar and doesn't need a bedika at all? And for the Gemara, Seifa asan li mei nida. True, the Seifa is referring to the mei nidas of an Isha. This is the way we have to interpret the Mishnah. Kol Yud Aleph Yom B'cheskas Tahara V'lo Yibay B'dika. The 11 days of Yimei Ziva, she is B'cheskas Tahara and does not need a B'dika. Aval, however, B'yimei Nidasa, in the Yimei Nidasa, B'yimei B'dika, then she is not presumed to be Tahar, she does not possess a Cheskas Tahara, and she needs to have a B'dika. However, this B'dika is only Chatchila. Yash V'lei Batka, if she ignored this din and she did not do a bedika for whatever reason, shagaga, nansa, hizida, v'loi batka tahira, then nevertheless she's considered tar because the din of bedika is only elachat chila. So again, Rabbi Yehuda is explaining the Mishnah to be referring to the din of bedikas. The opening statement of the Mishnah is mechadish to us that a isha b'mei zivasa, since it is unusual for her to see dam during that period, during those days, she does not require a bedika. An ordinary woman who is b'mei nidasa does need to make a bedika, but that is only the chatchila, and b'diavad she is still considered tahar. The second pshat in the Mishnah is coming from Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda Amar lo yitzricha, it is referring to El Rav Meir, the Amar Isha she'ein la vest asur l'shamish. There's a shittas Rav Meir, which is a chiddush that a isha who does not have a permanent cycle, she doesn't have a fixed period where she sees the dam, then we suspect, we have a chashash that she may see dam anytime during the month, and she is asur to live with her husband. Therefore, the Mishnah is teaching us a chiddush that this halacha, that asur l'shamish, is only during the Yimei Nidasa. However, b'Yimei Zivasa, since it is so unusual for her to see dam, there's no chash that she will ever see dam in those days, and she's mutar to her husband. This is only said b'Yimei Nidasa. Aval b'Yimei Zivasa, however, in the day of Ziva, b'cheskas tahara kaima, she is still b'cheskas tahara, and she is mutar to be with her husband. If that is so, that we are differentiating between the Yimei Nidasa and the Yimei Zivasa, if so, why did Rameir rule that this Isha, She'ein Leves, needs to be divorced? Well, she needs to get a get, and she can't live with her husband. Let her stay with her husband, and be mutter during the Yimei Zivasa. If that is so, Amai Omer Rameir, why did Rameir say, Yoitzi v'lo yachzor elamis, that you must divorce her, and never return her again? Why is that so? You have a simple solution to the problem. Just be mutter, be mezivasa, not be meinidasa. And for the Gemara, that is not a practical solution. Dilma, perhaps asil kilkula be meinida. If they stay together, they might come to a michshal and a kilkul on the days of her nida, and they won't make the proper differentiation between the two parts of the month. For the Gemara on this, hamig diktani seifa. If that is so, that the Mishnah is speaking about an isha she'ein lavest, and the chiddush is that even according to Rameir, who maintains that an isha she'ein lavest needs to have gerushin, and the Mishnah is coming to tell us that is dafka b'mei nidasa. However, mezivasa, she is mutter. Incidentally, what are we speaking about? If she is ein lavest, isha she'ein lavest, you mechuyev to be megarisha. Why would it be mutter to live with her b'mei zivasa? So Taisus addresses that. Taisus says we're speaking about until he goes ahead and is megarisher. At least for the time being, she's mutter b'mei zivasa. In any case, the Gemara has a kasha on this pshat. From what it says in the Seifa of the Mishnah, the latter part of the Mishnah, if the day of her vest of a fixed period comes around and she did not do a bedika, then the Mishnah continues on to say that she is tameh because we assume that the dam has arrived. Apparently, we're speaking about an isha that possesses a fixed cycle, that has a vest. Michlal, if that's so, it seems like the isha she'esh levest askina. We're not speaking about isha she'ein levest. So how does that jive with the reisha of the Mishnah, which you have interpreted to be referring to an isha she'ein levest? Answers the Gemara, Chisuri mechsura v'achiktani. You have to insert and interpret the Mishnah as follows. Kol Yud Aleph b'cheskas tahara. The 11 days of Yimei Ziva, she is b'cheskas tahara, v'shari l'bayla, and she's mutter to her husband. U'b'mei nida. However, in the days of Nida Asura, and again we are speaking about Isha she'ein lavest. B'meh dvarim amurim. When are we speaking about be'isha she'ein lavest? She doesn't have a fixed cycle, and therefore, b'mei nidasa, we always suspect perhaps a dam will come at any moment. However, an isha that does have a fixed cycle, does have a vest, muteres, she is an ordinary woman, and of course she's mutar l'bayla. Utzricha b'dik, however, she still needs to do a bedika. But that is only lechatchila dikadin. Yashva v'leibatka, if for some reason she didn't do a bedika, for whatever reason, shagaga, nansa, hezida v'leibatka, whether it was inadvertent, unavoidable, or purposely, v'leibatka, however, tahira, she is still tahir. That is only shaloi b'shas vesta, if it's just in a random time during the month. Higia shas vesta, if the time of her period had arrived. V'loi batka, then it is more stringent. Then we assume that the dam came, tmeya, and she is tameh. So in conclusion, the mahalach, the approach of Rav Chizda is as follows. The Mishnah is teaching us a chiddush regarding isha she'ein lavest, which ordinarily one is required to be megarish this isha, since it can result in a michshah. The Mishnah is teaching us that b'mei zivasa, since it is so unusual for her to see dam during those days, this isha, who ein lavest, although he mechiv to be megarish, however, in the time being, during the b'mei zivasa, there is absolutely no reason to believe that she'll have dam, and she is mutar labala. That is the opening statement of the Mishnah. The Mishnah then continues on to say, this is only regarding isha she'ein lavest. However, isha sheyesh lavest, of course, she is mutar, she is permitted, provided that she goes ahead and she performs the proper bedikas. But that is only a lechatchila, that is only a preferred halacha. Bidi eved, even if she did not perform any bedikas, she is still tahir, provided that it's shaloi b'shas vesta. But once the shas vesta arrives, the time of her fixed period, then if she doesn't do any bedika, she is considered tameh. And of course, we have the next part of the Mishnah, which discusses the isha that's in a hiding place, according to her mayor, even b'shas vesta she's tar. And then the conclusion of the Mishnah regarding a zav and a zava, which are b'cheskas tuma. Continues the Gemara. If you read on in the Mishnah, you have then she's tar because the charada, the terror, is masalik the damim. That would imply that up until now, Rameya wasn't the one teaching of the halacha. It wasn't the Manda Umar of the Mishnah, it was somebody else, it was a Tanakama, it wasn't Rameya. Hamad the Sefer Rameya, Reish Lav Rameya. How can you explain and tell us that the first part of the Mishnah is based on the ruling, the halacha, the shita of Rav Meir? It would seem from the Sefer that the Reish is not following Rameya's opinion. And for the Gemara, Kula Rav Meir here. You're right, the whole Mishnah is actually Rameir. B'chakama, this is how you have to explain. Im lo ha'isa b'machvei, an ordinary isha which has a vest, and she's mutar l'bala, and she requires a bedika only chatchila, b'di'evet she's fine. However, if the shas vesta arrives and she didn't do a bedika, she's tameh. If she wasn't in hiding, im lo ha'isa b'machvei, v'yigia shas vesta, if she was not in hiding and the time of her period arrives, v'lo batka, and for some reason she didn't do a bedika tmeya, then she's tameh. Why is that so? Sherav Meir Omer. So here we're inserting a shin. Sherav Meir Omer. Up until now we were going with Shittas Rav Meir and continuing on with Rav Meir Svara. Im ha'isa b'machve. If a woman is in hiding, v'yigia shas vesta, and the day of her vest arrives, v'lo batka, and she didn't do the required bedika, nevertheless, tahira. Why is that so? Shecharada mesalekes es adamim, because the fear of the goyim is mesalik, it suspends and prevents the damim from coming. So in conclusion, we have two mahalchim in the Gemara, we have two approaches, two interpretations to the words of the Mishnah of kol achad asar yoyim b'cheskas tahara. First one was Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah is teaching us that although an ordinary isha needs to do a bedika, that is dafka b'mei nidusa, because then she is liable. It is a usual thing, it is her nature to see dam during the b'mei nidasa. That's why a bedika is required. However, b'mei zivasa, because it's so unusual for her to see dam during those days, there is no bedika requirement for the isha. Then we have Rav Chizda's mahalach. Rav Chizda interprets the Mishnah to be referring to an isha she'ein lavest, which according to Rav Meir needs to get gerushin, because she might bring about a michshel, a transgression, because the dam might arrive at any time. Zok the Mishnah, that's dafka, that's specifically b'mei nidasa, because then she's more liable to see dam. However, b'mei zivasa, since there is no chashash, there's no suspicion, we're not concerned with dam arriving, she is mutar during those 11 days. And the whole Mishnah is Shitas Rav Meir. A third Mahalach in the Gemara, Rava Amar Loimar She'ena Matama Me'is Leis. What is unique about the Yimei Ziva? What is special about the 11 days of the Yimei Ziva of the Isha? Rava's approach is as follows. We know that an Isha who sees Dam today, she is Tamei retroactively Me'is Leis, meaning anything Taharis, anything she may have touched, come into contact with within the last 24-hour period, are considered to be Tamei. And why is that so? As we had discussed earlier in the Masechta, the Chachamim were concerned that perhaps the Dam had begun its flow within the last 24 hours, although she's only seeing it today, but in reality, the NIDAH had begun already within a period of 24 hours, and therefore, v'chayshish, that she was actually Tamei even before she noticed the Dam, and therefore we render anything that she touched within the last 24 hours, we render to be Tamei. Zok Rava, the Mishnah is teaching us that is only b'mei nidusa. That is only during the days that she is liable to see. That is usual for her to see. However, during the Yimei Zivasa, these 11 days are unique in a way that they don't have any chashash of Re'iyah. Now, if she sees something, it's an unusual occurrence. However, to go ahead and retroactively be metameh and assume or suspect, be concerned that the dam had actually started 24 hours ago, there's no basis for that, and there's no tumah of me'es leis. Again, Rav Amar, Rav's approaches, Loimar, the Mishnah is teaching us she'ena metama me'es leis. That Zava, b'mei zivasa, is not metame. Actually, she's not a Zava, she's only b'mei zivasa. These are days that are potentially can make her a Zava if she would see dam during those days. And those days do not have the stringency of Tumah me'es leis. In fact, the Gemara on Rava, v'raminhu me'isvei. We've learned in the Braisa, HaNIDAH, which means an ordinary woman, b'mei nidusa, if she sees dam, v'hazava, a woman who is b'mei zivasa during the 11 days of Yimei Ziva, meaning either she is a full-fledged Zava, meaning that she's seen Dam for 3 days in a row, or she's merely a Shemeres Yem Keneged Yom, which means an Isha that only saw 1 or 2 days during that period of 11 days Yimei Ziva, where she has to be Baidik the following day, ensure that she's free of any Dam. So either way, a Zava or Shemeres Yem Keneged Yom, or a NIDAH, all of them, Vayiledis, and the Isha that gave birth, and she saw Dam during the childbirth, all these four women, Kulan, they all have the same halacha of Metamois Me'es Leis. The stringency, the halacha of the retroactive tumah of Me'es Leis is applied to all women regardless, whether she's a NIDAH, a Zava, a Yeledis, which seems to contradict the Chiddush of Rava. Rava had just taught us that the Chiddush in the Mishnah is that a Isha B'Shas, her Yud Aleph Yimei Ziva, since it is unusual for her to see Dam, there's no two Me'es Leis. Here we have a Bryce explicitly stating that any Isha, regardless of her status, of her of the time of the month, regardless of whether she's a NIDAH, a Zava, a Yeledis, they all carry this din of Tumah Me'es Leis. Tiyufta. So this will be a Tiyufta refutation of Rava's approach. Now the fourth and final approach to explain the Mishnah, Rav Huna bar Chia Amar Shmuel, he said the name of Shmuel Loimar. What is the Mishnah teaching us? That the Yud Aleph Yom of Yimei Ziva are b'cheskes tahara. Loimar she'ena kayvas lovest b'soich Yimei Zivasa. Now we know that an Isha sees Dam one time, that is considered a vest she'ena kavua. It is not a permanent cycle, meaning we don't establish that this is her fixed day for seeing. Rather, it's an unusual occurrence. When the next month comes around, yes, she has to be chayshish on that day and be concerned perhaps she will see Dam. But it is not considered a fixed cycle, unless an Isha will see 3 times consecutively, repeatedly on the same day. Then that establishes a fixed period, a fixed cycle, a vest kavua, which carries with it 3 nafkaminas. There are three ramifications to a ves kavua over a ves she'ena kavua. Number one, in order to eradicate it, in order to remove that status from that day, you would have to change her practice 3 times. She would have to see 3 times on a different day, and that would be oiker the ves kavua. The second halacha would be that if a ves kavua arrives, the isha is required to do bedika. If she fails to do her bedika, she's tamei, as we had stated earlier in the Mishnah. The third nafkamina would be, it's actually a leniency, that there's no tumah of me'es la'es by isha she'esh levest. Because we assume what you see is what you get. When she sees today, it began today, because today is the day of her fixed period. We don't go back and be matama her retroactively like we would do regarding a ves she'ena kavua. So the chiddush of Shmuel is that an isha during the Yimei Ziva cannot establish a ves kavua, being that seeing dam during those days altogether is a very unusual occurrence. Doing it once, twice, or 3 times makes no difference, and she would not establish a ves kavua during that day. So, in conclusion, we have 4 mahalchim to explain the Mishnah. 4 approaches. In the first opening statement of Kol Achad Asar Yayim B'Cheskas Tahara. What does that mean? During the 11 days of Yimei Ziva, an Isha is B'Cheskas Tahara. We have Rabbi Yehuda's approach that she does not need to make a bedika because she's B'Cheskas Tahara, she's presumed to be tar. We have Rav Chisda's approach that even an Isha she'ein lavest may be mutter during those Yimei Ziva. We have Rava's approach that there's no tumah me'es la'es during the Achad Asar Yimei Ziva, and we have the final approach of Rav Huna bar Chia in the name of Shmuel that there's no kviyas vest during the Achad Asar Yimei Ziva. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rav Yosef, lo yishmi'a li ha'ishmaita. Rashi explains that Rav Yosef was a Talmud of Rabbi Yehuda, who himself was a Talmud of Rav and Shmuel. Rabbi Yosef was surprised that he hadn't recalled this halacha, that an isha cannot be kaveya, her ves kavua, cannot establish a fixed period during the Yimei Zivasa. And he was surprised since he would have heard it. If this was a ruling that Shmuel had issued, then Rabbi Yehuda, who was a Talmud of Shmuel, would have conveyed that and related that and taught that to Rabbi Yosef as well. Why don't I remember this? Amalei Abaye. So Abaye told him, At Amrslan, you've actually taught this to us. Rashi explains, and this is mentioned several times in the Gemara, that Rabbi Yosef fell ill and he had a very drastic memory loss. And whenever he heard something which he couldn't recall, he would say, why don't I know this? And Abaye's Talmud many times would respond to him in a respectful way, Rebbe, you actually did teach it to us. And he would go on to relate to him when and where the teaching actually took place. Amalei Abaye, At Amrslan, you've actually related it to us. Va'aha Amrslan, you have taught us this halacha in connection to the following Mishnah. If an Isha had a custom to see dam during the 15th day, 15 we're speaking about here is not the 15th day of the month, but rather the 15th day from the Tvilah. Isha saw dam on Yom Aleph. 7 days later she was Tovel, in time Chazal. The Tvilah would take place 7 days after the initial Riyah. 15 days after that is the Yom Tezvav, which the Gemara is referring to here, and she's seen dam on that day. V'shin Sili Yom Chaf. And then she goes ahead and she changes to the 20th day. So again, 15 means actually 15 plus the initial 7 of Yimei NIDAH, which is a total of 22 days since her initial Riyah. She had a ves kavua to see on that day, and then for some reason 1 month came along and she switched. She didn't see on the 15th, she saw on the 20th, which actually again means instead of the 22nd, she saw on the 27th. Zeh v'zeh asur l'shamish, being that she didn't make this change 3 times, so the ves kavua is intact, stays in place, and in addition to the status of ves kavua, which is the 20th, 22nd day, she additionally has a ves she'ena kavua on the 27th day, and we are concerned on that day as well, perhaps she might see dam, and she is obligated to be pirish on that day. Now let's say this happens twice. Twice she switched over to the 20th day, which again, including the initial 7-day NIDAH, would be 27 if she does this twice. The same halacha. Zeh v'zeh asurin asurin. Both days remain asur, the initial, original ves kavua, and the new date as well. So this is the halacha which is stated in the Mishnah. Va'am rislan Allah, and you, Rav Yosef, explain to us, Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Lo yishanu, we are not speaking, when the Mishnah says 15, we are not speaking about Ella, only Tezvav l'tfilasa, 15 days from the tefillah. Shein chav beis l'riyasa, which counting the 7 days of the initial riyah, the 7 NIDAH which preceded the tefillah, you have a total of 22. And she went ahead and she did this 3 times. She repeated a riyah's dam 3 times on the 22nd day, and therefore she establishes for herself a ves kavua. Why do we have to interpret the Mishnah in such a fashion? Why? The hasam b'mei nidasa kaila. Because in that case, because the 15 actually means 22, so now she's past the yimei zivasa. Because again, the Isha's cycle consists of 7 yimei nida and 11 yimei ziva. If Isha sees today, she's tamei nida for 7 days. When she's done the yimei nidasa, begins the yimei zivasa. So it's a total of 18 days for both. Now 22, which the Mishnah is talking about, is actually past the yimei zivasa. She's back into the territory of yimei nida. So then it is understood that she could establish a ves kavua, because it's the yimei nida. Avol tesvav liriyasa. However, if you would learn the Mishnah literally, that tesvav means 15 days from her initial riyah, which in effect is smack in the middle of the yimei ziva, because 7 yimei nidas followed by 11 yimei ziva equal 18, and this is day 15, which is the yimei zivasa. Lo kavala, she can't be kaveh aves during the yimei zivasa. The Mishnah evidently can't be speaking about the day 15 from the riyah, because that would fall right in the middle of the yimei zivasa, which she can't establish the ves kavua during those days, because it's unusual for her to see dam during those days, as mentioned earlier. But rather, we must interpret the Mishnah as meaning tesva, 15 days from the tefillah, which is in addition to the 7 yimei nidasa, which total 22, which is back into yimei nida territory. So here we have very clearly that Rabbi Yosef, in the name of Yehuda, the name of Shmuel, taught us the same halacha as mentioned earlier in the name of Chia, Rav Huna bar Chia. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to begin discussing this topic, whether or not an Isha can be kaiveya a vest during the yimei zivasa. We've established that a vest kavua she cannot establish during the yimei zivasa, because it's unusual for her to see dam, and seeing dam during those days are not considered to be her nature, and therefore do not have a stringency of a ves kavua. Now Rav Papa is going to have a question. True, she doesn't have a ves kavua, but perhaps is it enough to create a concern? At least like a ves she'ena kavua, that when we come around back to that day of the month, she should be asur, she's obligated to be concerned about seeing dam, at least during that day. Of course, it doesn't carry all the halachic ramifications of a ves kavua. You would, for instance, only need one akira, one changeover to be oiker to nullify the ves she'ena kavua. That is one side of the coin. Or perhaps do we say she is so far removed from seeing dam during the yimei zivasa that it is not even considered a ves she'ena kavua. Amar Rav Papa, Amrisla Shmaita, I've said over this halacha kamei Rabbi Yehuda midiskarta. I've mentioned this halacha in front of Rabbi Yehuda from diskarta. Mikva lekava, she cannot be kaiveya haves during the yimei zivasa. However, meichush ma'od neichushla. Should we be concerned? Should we be suspicious? Should we suspect that perhaps she may see dam during the ves she'ena kavua, which was established during the yimei zivasa? Ishtik v'loy amali v'loy midi. Rabbi Yehuda didn't respond to anything. Amar Papa, if the Rebbe doesn't answer, we'll try to figure it out. Let's explore. Nechsianan, let's see for ourselves. It says in the Mishnah that we mentioned earlier, Isha had a custom to see dam during the 15th day, which of course means in reality day 22 since the Riyah. And she switches over 5 days later. Both days remain asur. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, but the Mishnah says, When the Mishnah says the 15th day, Tezvav, it is Tezvav from the Tefillah, which total 22 from the Re'iyah, 22 from when the Isha saw the Dam. V'shinsel Yom Chav Zayin. Then the Isha went ahead and switched her days. She moved up her Re'iyah 5 days to day 27. So the Mishnah, although she switched her Re'iyah once, that is not enough to be Eiker, the Ves Kavua. We are still Chayshish that she will still go ahead and continue seeing on day 22. It's now interesting to note that Rav Papa is b'mechadash a tremendous chiddush, that the Ves Kavua of 22, which she is still maintaining even though she switched her Re'iyah one time, that vest will follow according to the theoretical Re'iyah, meaning although practically speaking she didn't see on day 22, she only saw on day 27, which was 5 days later. However, she still maintains the original calculations, and she must calculate 22 days from the day that she would have seen. So now, basically, she's keeping 2 books. Regarding the actual calculation of the Yemei NIDAH and the Yemei Ziva, we follow the practical Re'iyah. From the day she actually sees, she's a NIDAH for 7, a Zava for Yemei Ziva for the following 11. However, regarding being concerned about the Yemei Vesta, about the Vest Kavua, which was day 22, for that we reckon with the original, with the previous cheshbon, the previous calculation, and we count 22 days from day 22, which she should have seen Dam. So now when the Mishnah goes ahead and tells us a chiddush that we are still chayshish, we still suspect that she will see Dam on day 22, the 22 are counted from the previous calculation, from the day which she should have seen, from the theoretical Yom Har'iyah, which is actually only 17 days from the actual Yom Har'iyah, which falls out during the Yemei Ziva. Because let's remember, once she sees, she's a NIDAH for 7. At the completion of the 7, the next 11 are Yemei Ziva, which total 18. If we go ahead and saying that the Isha is has a vest, a chash vest, on day 17, in effect we're saying that we are chayshish for a vest even during the Yemei Ziva. Thus, Rav Papa has a raya that we are chayshish, at least for a vest she'eina kavua, even during Yemei Zivasa. When day 22 comes around, the 22 day, the day 22 falls out during the Yemei Zivasa. And she's aser. Evidently, we're chayshish even during the Yemei Ziva. So Rav Papa has a raya from this Mishnah, from a diak in this Mishnah, that although Isha cannot be keveya vest during the Yemei Zivasa, however, we are still chayshish, certainly for vest she'eina kavua, even during Yemei Zivasa. V'kasav Rav Papa is telling us a huge chiddush. Esrim v'tartin, when we say Isha is aser on day 22, how do we reckon day 22? From the actual Re'iyah, or from the theoretical day of Re'iyah? We count from day 22, although she didn't actually see on day 22. Nevertheless, we calculate the 22 from the day which she should have seen. So that is a calculation regarding the Yemei Vest. However, in practice, regarding the Yemei NIDAH and Yemei Ziva, which the Isha will follow right now, for that, we reckon according to the actual Re'iyah, which was on day 27. NIDAH u'pischa, meaning the calculation of the Isha regarding the Yemei NIDAH and the Yemei Ziva, me'esrim rezayim meninan. We calculate from the actual day that she saw the Dam, which was day 22. But if we go ahead and we still chayshish for day 22 from the theoretical day 22, from the day which she should have seen Dam, so in actuality it's only 17 days from the actual Re'iyah, which are still during the Yemei Ziva, and we see that there's still chash during the Yemei Ziva. Rafuna Breda Rishua is going to dispute this. Mimai, how do you know to be mechadash such a huge chiddush that the Isha will reckon the Yemei Aves from the theoretical Re'iyah? We never do that. We start fresh. If she saw on day 27, true, she still maintained the May Vest, the Yom Vest of day 22, but day 22 from when? From today, from day 27. So in effect, she's going to be passing through the complete cycle, 7 Yimei NIDAH, 11 Yimei Ziva, and back over to the Yimei NIDAH, and then certainly V'chayshis for Vest during the Yimei NIDAH. And you have no raya to your Chiddush. Let's see inside. How do you know? Dilma Esrim Retartin, when we are Chayshis for day 22, Nami Me Esrim Rezayim. Just like we count the Pischa, the calculation of the Yimei NIDAH, Yimei Ziva, you're a Maida, you agree to me that you count from the actual practical Riyah, so to the 22 days. The May Vest, the Yom Vest of day 22, it is only counted from the current Yom HaRiyah. The Chihadri v'asu Esrim Retartin, when we come back around to day 22 from today, she's back around to Yimei NIDAH, because she's past the 7 and past the 11 and back to Yimei NIDAH, and certainly we have a reason to be chayshish for a vest during the Yimei NIDAH. It's very logical. If you don't say this way, if you don't follow this reasoning, I will prove to you from a tarnagol, from a chicken, from a hen. Hi tarnagol to the Ramra Yaima V'kavsha Yamish. She had a pattern of laying an egg one day and withholding the next. Ramra Yaima V'kavsha Yaima. So this hen would lay on the odd days and withhold on the even. Then one time she went on strike. V'kavsha Trei Yaimi V'ramra Chad Yaima. She went ahead and withheld for 2 days and went back to her practice and laid one more egg on the following day, which actually ended up being on an even day. So now, if she wants to go back to her original pattern of every other day, how would you assume? Would you assume that she will go back somehow to work it out, that she would be laying on the odd and withholding on the even? Or by the fact that she had already bumped over her schedule and skipped over a day, now even if she goes back to the original pattern of 1 day laying, 1 day withholding, certainly it will be laying on the even and withholding on the odds. When she'll go back to her pattern, will she be following a pattern going forward from today on? Or will she fall back to the original pattern? And basically she would have to lay an egg 2 days consecutively in order to go back to the original pattern of laying during the odd and withholding during the even. Certainly we have to assume that she'll be beginning the pattern anew, starting from today going forward. And similarly by the Isha, we have no reason to believe that she will fall back to the theoretical Yom HaRiyah, but rather the fact that she saw on Day Chav Zayin, that is the beginning of the new pattern. And although we are suspecting that she will go and see during Yom Chav Beis, but Chav Beis means from today going forward. Now Rav Papa didn't give up. He brought another raya to his Chiddush that we follow the theoretical Yom HaRiyah and not the practical Yom HaRiyah. Amalei Rav Papa Elahad Amar Rish Lakish. We have a machlekes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Whether an Isha could be kaveh a vest during the Yimei Zivasa or during the Yimei Nidasa. Taisus explains that the ruling in the name of Shmuel we had in Amar Aleph that an Isha cannot be kaveh a vest during the Yimei Zivasa is not in line with the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish coming up. They hold that Isha can be kaveh a vest during the Yimei Zivasa. However, there is a machlekes between them regarding the Yimei Nidasa. Why would Yimei Nidasa be worse off than Yimei Zivasa? Rashi and Daf Yud Aleph explains because the Isha is already seeing dam during the Yimei Nidasa. It's considered an open source. She's already seeing dam during those days, and therefore Rish Lakish maintains that an Isha cannot be kaveh a vest during those days. Those are just seeing days. They are not dependent on today or tomorrow. It is a unit of Yimei NIDAH where Isha will see during those days, and she cannot fix an established period during one of those days of the Yimei Nidasa. However, Rabbi Yochanan disagrees. Isha can indeed be kaveh a vest even during the Yimei Nidasa. Dama Rish Lakish says Isha kavas levest. Isha can establish a vest with tzayich Yimei Zivasa. Ve'in Isha kavas levest with tzayich Yimei Nidusa. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Isha kavas levest with tzayich Yimei Nidusa. Isha can be kaveh a vest even during the Yimei Nidas. Now, let's explore. What are we speaking about? Hey Chidami. Lav kigoyin de chazoy reish yarcha. Are we not speaking about the following case? An Isha saw Aleph l'chodesh, Hey l'chodesh. The next month comes around, Aleph l'chodesh and Hey l'chodesh. The third month comes around, and she did not see during Aleph l'chodesh, but rather during Hey l'chodesh. It can't be that she saw during Aleph as well, because then she would be a full-fledged NIDAH. And even Rabbi Yochanan agrees that an Isha cannot be Kaveh Vest when she's actually during the days of Re'iyah. So it must be that although the first two times there was a Re'iyah of Aleph and Hey, meaning that the Re'iyah of Hey was following a Re'iyah of Yom Aleph, and same thing was repeated the second month. However, in the third month, it must be speaking about that there was no Re'iyah, there was no Dam on the first day of the month, but rather only strictly on Yom Hey. And according to Rabbi Yochanan, she Kaveh Vest for Yom Hey L'Chodesh. Although the initial two Re'iyahs occurred during the Yemei Nidusa. Says Rav Papa, why is Rabbi Yochanan terming the Yom Re'iyah on the third month as a Re'iyah b'Soich Yemei Nidusa? She merely saw one time, Hey L'Chodesh. Although in the previous 2 months, she had a Re'iyah on Yom Aleph in addition to Yom Hey. Thereby, the Re'iyah of Yom Hey was considered a Re'iyah within the days of Nidus. But in the third month, there was no Re'iyah on Yom Aleph, but merely a Re'iyah on Yom Hey. So why then does Rabbi Yochanan term this as a Re'iyah b'Toich Yemei Nidusa? Evidently, we look at the history. And since the Isha had a record of seeing Dam, Aleph L'Chodesh, although this time around she didn't, these days, the days following the first day of the month, are considered Yemei Nidasa. Evidently, we don't look at the practical Riyah, we look at the theoretical Riyah, which is supportive of Rav Papa's Chiddush. Again inside, Hey Chadami, how are we speaking about? Lav ki goin de chazoy reish yarcha v'chamisha b'yarcha. She saw Dam on the first day and the fifth day of the month. Next time around, she repeated the same practice, reish yarcha v'chamisha b'yarcha. The third month around, v'hashta, now the third month around, chazoy b'chamisha b'yarcha. She saw merely on the fifth day, u'b'reish yarcha loy chasay. There was no Dam on the first day of the month. V'ka'amar, and nevertheless, Rabbi Yochanan says, Isha kayvaz leves b'toich yemei nidusa. An Isha, by doing so, has established a vest within the days of Nida. Alma, evidently, mireish yarcha meninan. We reckon from the beginning of the month, even though there was no actual Re'iyah this time around. But since she had a custom of seeing Dam on the first day of the month, these are considered, to a certain extent, her Yemei Nida. Amalei responded, Rav Huna b'eder Rishut Rav Papa Loi. This is not the case. You've described the case which supports your Chiddush. The Machlekes of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish is not discussing this particular case. However, it is a different case altogether. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Loi, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. The case that Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are discussing is a totally different case. It is a scenario as follows. Suppose Aisha saw on Rosh Chodesh, next month again, she repeated the same Re'iyah on Rosh Chodesh. Come the third month, she actually preceded. She saw Dam on the 25th day of the previous month. She was Magdim 5 days. And then again, V'reish Yarcha. So, technically speaking, she saw 3 days consecutively, three consecutive months on Rosh Chodesh. But since the third month, she started seeing Dam 5 days earlier, so these are actually Yemei Nidusa now. Do we say that no, since her source is open, she's seeing there's a flow of Dam here, you cannot be Kaveh Vest anymore. The Dam began on the 25th day, and not on the Rosh Chodesh. So you can't be Kaveh Vest on Rosh Chodesh. Comes Rabbi Yochanan as Machalish, that's a tremendous Chiddush. Yes, we consider this as a full-fledged Kviyas Vest, and we consider it as 3 Re'iyos on Rosh Chodesh. She saw 5 days earlier. Damrina, we say Damim Yiseru Yiseri Hudu Taisfu Ba. She had an abundance of Dam, and therefore the Dam started flowing earlier. But this is nevertheless a Re'iyah, a Rosh Chodesh Re'iyah, and it attaches itself to the 2 prior Re'iyos, which are Rosh Chodesh, and therefore she's established for herself a full-fledged Ves Kavua for Rosh Chodesh. So, in conclusion, Rav Huna b'eder Rishut is explained to Rav Papa, you have no basis for your explanation that Rabbi Yochanan is speaking about a specific case where we must reckon according to the theoretical Yom Re'iyah, which would support your approach, but rather Rabbi Yochanan is speaking about an actual Yom HaRiyah. There was an actual Riyah 3 times over on Rosh Chodesh. Rabbi Yochanan's Chiddush is that although the 3rd time around the dam had started coming earlier, nevertheless we consider that as a ves kavua for Rosh Chodesh, and which Rish Lakish takes issue with that, since there's already dam here, and she's considered a NIDAH, the Isha cannot be kaveh vest on that day. So let's summarize the Gemara. We have a Chiddush from Shmuel on Amar Aleph that an Isha cannot be kaveh vest, cannot establish a vest kavua during the Mei Zivasa, since it is unusual for her to see dam during that day. This is chilek on Shitas Rabbi Yochanan, which we just mentioned, that Isha can indeed be kaveh vest even during the Mei Ziva. Rav Papa continued on to question whether perhaps there is at least a concern, a chash, perhaps not of a ves kavua, but nevertheless of a ves she'ena kavua during the Mei Zivasa. Rav Papa explored 2 rayas to his approach. Firstly, from the Mishnah with the cheshbon of the 22 and the 27, which would imply, according to Rav Papa's interpretation of things, that there is a chashash, there is a concern for dam even during the Mei Ziva. Rav Huna took issue with that, and he maintained that the calculation of Rav Papa was wrong. We never reckon from a theoretical day, but rather from a practical day, of Riyah, and therefore the raya, the proof on the Mishnah, sort of got dissolved. Rav Papa went ahead and brought another raya from the Machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, and actually from the wording of Rabbi Yochanan, who considers the Yemei, considers a day, a theoretical Yom Riyah as a Yom NIDAH. Therefore, we see from there that we follow theory rather than practice. To that, Rav Huna ben Yeshua took issue and said, no, Rav Yochanan is not referring to that case, but rather a different scenario altogether, where we indeed do follow only the practical Yom HaRiyah and not the theoretical Yom HaRiyah. Concludes the Gemara. And so too, ki asa Raven v'chol nechusei yama, Raven and all the Talmud Chachamim that descended from Eretz Yisrael, Amruah, they explained the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Huna b'rei de Rishua, according to the interpretation of Rav Huna b'rei de Rishua, that of course we don't follow theory, but we follow the practical, current day of seeing. So in summary, let's summarize the blot. We began with a Mishnah. Mishnah taught us that an Isha has Yemei NIDAH for 7 days. Following that, there are 11 Yemei Ziva. An Isha is B'cheskas Tahara during those 11 days. We had 4 approaches in the Gemara. Number 1 of Yehuda, that there is no B'dika required during those 11 days, since it is unusual for her to see dam during those days. We had Rav Chizda, who followed with an approach that we're discussing an Isha she'en lavest, and although ordinarily she's Asr, but not during the 11 Yemei Ziva. Rava was Mechalish that there is no Tumah of Me'es La'es during the Yemei Ziva. Chia bar Rav Huna bar Chia concluded with the 4th approach, that there is no Kviyas Vest during the Yemei Ziva. Rav Papa declared a Shaila whether there is any Chashash at all during the Yemei Ziva. He attempted to bring a Raya from a Mishnah. Rav Huna b'rei Yeshua disputed the Raya, and then they went ahead into a whole another discussion whether we ever reckon according to theory or according to practical Yom Riyah. And Rav Papa had attempted to bring a Raya from Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Huna b'rei Yeshua disputed the Raya, and the conclusion of the Gemara is that the other Talmud Chachamim as well agreed with the interpretation of Rav Huna b'rei Yeshua. So that would leave us with the conclusion that apparently, just as an Isha cannot be Kaveya Vest during the Mei Zivasa, so too there's no Shash at all. Even for a Vest She'ena Kavua, we're never concerned with Dam arriving during the Mei Ziva.